life of your car.
There's been a lot of gold mined by foreign car makers in the U.S., and why not, since there are about 4 times as many cars here than in any other single country in the world. The British and the Germans were among the first prospectors, and then came the Japanese, who are still at it, as we just saw a few minutes ago. And as though it weren't enough, it looks like we might be in for another gold rush from another Far Eastern ally, South Korea. South Korea's biggest car maker is Hyundai, and they're already selling cars in over 60 countries, including Canada. Naturally, they have plans to start marketing in the U.S. soon, so we thought we'd slip across our northern border for a peek at things to come. This high-quality brochure looks like it could be describing any Japanese econobox, a Mazda, maybe a Nissan, but it isn't. The subject is the South Korean Hyundai, otherwise known as the Pony. This is basic transportation at its most basic. With a 92-inch wheelbase, it's 2 inches shorter than a 2-door Chevette. While a new kid on the block always has something to learn, the truth is the Pony made a solid first impression. It helps that its shape was conceived by famed Italian designer Giugiaro. That was a decade ago, but it still looks quite up to date. And although its front-engine, rear-drive format is a bit archaic, its tough and solid structure impressed us as a perfect workhorse for third or even first world rough roads. It's no surprise that the Pony looks like some older Japanese models, since 10% of Hyundai is actually owned by Mitsubishi. Under the bonnet is Mitsubishi's venerable 1.4-liter 4 that pumps out 68 horsepower under Canada's pollution controls that still allow new cars to run on leaded gas. So despite 2,200 pounds, power is adequate with the 4 or 5-speed manual. The 3-gear automatic, though, would be another story. With struts up front and, oh my, leaf springs in the rear, handling is also quite a bit behind the times. But they had durability in mind, and it's good enough for commuting. Even with loads of plow, that should keep just about any driver out of serious trouble. There is a lot of ground clearance, which has a lot to do with the copious body roll, despite a fairly firm ride. And in many ways, the Pony seems much more like a mule. But lest we forget, Chevrolet sold 179,000 Chevettes last model year, so there's a lot of folks out there who still want body by basic. For those of that vein in Canada, the Pony is perfect. The front is spacious enough with good old flat bucket seats, but they are well padded and even recline. Instrumentation is sparse, but controls well placed, with the layout and feel of recent logical French designs, a welcome change from Oriental high-tech. Available only in a hatchback with 4 narrow doors, the rear is adequate for 2, though the driveline tunnel is high and legroom limited. The trunk, however, is roomier than expected, with the spare located under the floor, and it has folding rear seats. A rigid package shelf is also standard. But the most interesting thing about the Hyundai Pony is its price. Are you ready? The base Pony L sells in Canada for the equivalent of only $4,500 US. Even the top-line GLS is only $5,400. It's said that the Japanese have a $1,500 per car advantage over U.S. car makers, but the Koreans have a similar advantage over the Japanese. Now, we won't be seeing the Pony in the U.S., but in 1986, Hyundai is expected to begin selling a new front-wheel drive model here. If it's built as well as the Pony and sells for those kinds of prices, the new Hyundai should be a smashing success. However, not everybody in Detroit is shedding tears about that, since rumor has it that Ford is talking co-production with Hyundai. And after our visit with the Pony, we think there's little doubt that a bargain basement South Korean car wave is starting to build. And Joyce, I understand there's still yet another Korean car company that's got stars and stripes in their eyes.
That's right, John, the Daewoo Company.
Well, what in the world have they got in store for us?
Well, they is actually Daewoo and General Motors. Now, Daewoo will be building a version of a European Opel for the U.S. market. Now, this Opel is already being built in Europe, but since we'll be seeing the Daewoo built version here about 1987, we thought we'd let everybody see what the European car looks like right now. Now, this all-new front driver just went on sale this fall. In Germany, it's called the Opel Kadett, and in Britain, it's the Vauxhall Astra. And once it's on sale here, it'll have the name Pontiac attached to it. Now, the shape generally resembles the fashionable European teardrop form, with that low front end and then that high stubby rear. And that styling makes the Astra Kadett very aerodynamic. GM claims a drag coefficient of only 0.30 for the top-of-the-line sports model. And the dimensions of the car are similar to the VW Rabbit Golf and Ford Escort, its biggest rivals. That's 158 inches long, 55 inches tall, with a 99-inch wheelbase. And it is quite a performer, at least in its European trim, with a top speed of 106 miles an hour. That's 0 to 60 in a little over 12 seconds. Now, there are 4 gas engines available, the top one being a 1.8-liter fuel-injected 4. Now, it's hard to tell which engines will make it to the U.S., though you can bet our emission standards are going to affect the power output. Now, the engine, by the way, is transverse mounted, and the car has McPherson struts up front, a unit body, and front disc rear drum brakes. And now there are also a number of different models to choose from, including the station wagon, though again, we don't know what we're going to get here. Most likely we'll get the 3- and 5-door hatchbacks at least. The interior trim has a couple of variations too, from this base model with only the speedometer, water temperature, and fuel readout to this upline digital version that's more complete. GM is really counting on the Astra Kadett to compete seriously with the Rabbit and Escort. And even though its styling is more radical than either of them, a lot of the experts feel it's going to give those big sellers a run for their money.
So Daewoo will build it, and Pontiac will probably begin selling it here beginning in 1987.
That's right. Now, it's probably going to replace the Pontiac 1000. That's the Chevette clone, which is likely to be discontinued after the '86 model year.
Interesting. Thanks, Joyce. Of course, even though the Koreans may be getting their tires wet in the international carpool, our next road test subject shows that the Japanese-made Econo car is still hard to beat.